The cost of living crisis isn't going away. Serious shift in tone. Homelessness charity Shelter are speaking out about pressures faced by many in the private rented sector.
Yes, they claim 1.9 million people rely on housing benefits to keep a roof over their heads. Shelter has also slammed Chancellor Rishi Sunak for doing little to help struggling renters. Well, joining us now to give us more is CEO of Shelter, Neate. Thank you for joining us, Polly. I mean, what was your reaction then to Rishi Sunak's statement in relation to finances? Because, as I just mentioned in the introduction, it did seem that for housing, it wasn't very big benefit for them.
No, I mean, we were disappointed because, of course, it was an opportunity to do something to support the very large number of people who are at risk of homelessness as a result of the cost of living crisis. What we've seen is, of course, a lot of evictions were delayed during the pandemic because the government made the very welcome step, indeed, of banning evictions for a considerable time during the pandemic period. But that, of course, has come to an end. And what we're now seeing is the rise in evictions following that, then kind of also being exacerbated by the fact that even more people now can't afford to pay their rent. So we really are going to see evictions and homelessness increasing unless the government does something. And sadly, Rishi Sunak simply did not do anywhere near enough. We were very disappointed.
And Polly, I mean, sometimes I really think, young people in particular are being hit really hard. I mean, you have the tuition fees repayments for those who did go to university. You have now the national insurance increase, the cost of living crisis, struggling to get on the housing ladder and crippling rents with most jobs centralised in London. I mean, do you think that young people are affected in particular about these problems, or do you think it's spread equally across the generations?
I think different people have different routes into the impact of the housing emergency, if you like. So you just listed there a lot of the pressures on young people, and you're absolutely right. Home ownership is absolutely plummeting. Homes, flats are particularly in London, but actually not only in London. We're seeing all over the country that for people trying to buy their first home, in particular, it is increasingly difficult. And the government isn't really doing much about that either. What the government really needs to do is to build homes that people on low incomes can actually afford to rent. And until they do that, they're going to keep on having to bail out people who are on the brink of homelessness. So right now, they're going to have to do something about housing benefits if they want to call a halt to this rise in homelessness. They're going to have to address housing benefits yet again, spend more money on that. But the reason they're having to keep doing that is because successive governments have not invested in decent homes for people on low incomes.
And finally, Polly, I mean, why don't you think that the government is doing this? I mean, it seems like everyone wants something to be done across the background, generations, income stratas. Why do you think there has been the lack of political will to really address this problem that is actually growing?
I think if you're looking at building really genuinely affordable homes, by which I don't mean the kind of shiny home ownership products that the government calls affordable homes, but which are actually not affordable to people trying to move out of private renting. If you really want to build properly affordable homes, then it does mean investment. And I think the government is finding that a tough decision. However, what I would point out is they're spending absolute billions on benefits in order to deal with this emergency, when actually that money would be much better invested in actually building homes.
Yeah. So, yes, thank you very much. Sorry to whiz you on through at the end there. We've just got a couple more bits and bobs to squeeze in before the end of the show. So thank you very much. CEO of Shelter there, Neate. Great to have you on the show.